Turn it off!
It's good. Do you like do a full on like intro, the whole deal? Like how does it work?
Yeah, I do a little intro. I just start recording whenever, and then it's just in case something interesting happens.
Right.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it, man.
All right. Let's go.
Alrighty then. All right, folks. Welcome to Cartoon Insider, where cartoonists talk about animation, comics, and all things related to the industry that we love. Today, I'd like to welcome Joaquim dos Santos, director on Spider-Verse Across the Universe.
Well, you totally botched that one, buddy.
Oh, did I? That's what's great
That's
about
fun.
editing.
That's fine.
Well, hold on a minute. Which Spider-Verse did you direct?
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, not the universe. That's totally fine. It's okay.
Maybe I'll keep it in.
Yeah.
It could be charming.
I like it.
Oh, let's try it again.
Okay.
Today, I'd like to welcome Joaquim dos Santos, director on Spider-Verse. Okay.
We're keeping the whole run, bro. Keep the whole run.
Director on Spider-Verse.
Nope. No.
It's like only the biggest fucking movie in the world.
It's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
For Best Picture, along with a Miyazaki film.
Jeez, Lou.
Get the fucking name right.
It's good. You're good. It's good.
So I'm gonna have to like look this up to say
it's just Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, it's not
Into is the first one.
Into is the first one, and Across the Spider-Verse is the second one, and then there's a third one.
There's a third one coming out.
That one's Across the Universe.
Nope.
No.
Maybe now it is.
Okay. All right, Okay. Here we go. Today, I'd like to welcome Joaquim dos Santos, director of Spider-Verse. I'm not going to get this right.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm just going to let it go.
I think just Spider-Verse. Well, just general Spider-Verse.
The director of a Spider-Verse movie.
I am.
I know that much is right. And you're also executive producer on other awesome things like The Legend of Korra.
Yep.
And Voltron.
Yep.
The series that was done for Netflix. And here we are to chit chat and amongst other things talk about Robotech.
Hell yeah.
And there are two things that sort of initiated this interview. And the first was I came across an article on my phone that mentioned Robotech as your favorite animated series.
Yeah.
Also, just recently, I read that the legal battle that has prevented Macross from being shown here domestically, it's finally been settled between the various parties. Which
it has.
Harmony
I read that as well. Yeah.
The Japanese studio, there was a model company that was licensed to create the models.
Yep.
That's where Robotech actually got its name. And so I just read in addition to that, Disney is going to start showing all the Robotech.
Oh, that I didn't know. Like on Disney Plus?
Yeah, in fact, I had no idea there was, I mean, not Robotech, Macross. They're gonna Robotech. You can actually watch on Crunchyroll right now. We can watch the whole thing. You can watch that DTV that was done a few years ago, and Robotech 2, the movie.
Got it.
I actually finally just watched last night.
You know what? I got to be honest. I never watched any of the follow-up stuff ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched like Macross Plus. I watched the stuff that came out from Japan, but like post Robotech growing up, I never followed up with any of that stuff.
You never even tried?
Didn't try.
Wow.
It just felt like some other thing. I wasn't quite sure what was going on, but it didn't feel right to me.
Yeah, well, I tried like 5 times to watch Robotech 2, the movie, because it has Rick. It's got all the major characters 10 years from where the first series ends.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I want to watch it? But every time I turned it on within the first 10 minutes, I was like,
you're out of there.
I know I can't do this. But I forced myself to watch the entire thing last night. Yeah, and it was pretty rough, I have to say.
All respect to those involved.
Yeah, I'll respect to Carl Macek, a
Yeah.
controversial figure to be sure. I mean, is it is it fair to say he's almost like a Stan Lee like figure in a sense? Like he was the front man and the salesman.
Yeah.
He brought anime to the kids in America in the 80s in a way that we'd never really seen before.
Totally.
In a
I think he
mature
saw
way.
the potential, but it was like it got real weird real fast, it seems.
Right. But it also he was assigned with a pretty unenviable task because Harmony Gold had acquired the rights to three separate
Yeah.
animated
Yeah.
series,
Yeah.
and the only way they could show it on a weekday schedule with other kids' cartoons was to be able to get it into what do you call it? Syndication.
Yeah. To have like a certain number of
Yeah, and you
episodes.
had to have at
Yeah.
least 65 episodes.
Yeah.
So none of them by themselves were that many episodes. So he was actually given the task to somehow tie them together
It's
and
amazing. I mean, it's amazing.
yeah, so that being said, I mean I bought it,
Oh, I
I
was there
I was
for it.
I was one of
I
these
do
characters.
remember going like,
Yeah,
I remember Robotech Masters
sure.
felt completely off to me. I was like,
Yes,
this isn't really connecting. It was Dana. It didn't make any
right,
sense. It was, but then by the time the next generation came around, I was like, oh, okay. Like the technology seems to have evolved over time. And that there
right.
was like a lineage there that made more sense to me.
We had Veritech fighters again for one.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand like where are the Veritech fighters? They have these
What's going on?
lame little ships that get shot out of the sky. They don't transform.
That's right.
But
And by the way, they're all it's all Southern Cross is cool. Like it's totally cool if it's like a standalone thing.
Mhm.
But like you try to force it in between that sandwich and
Yeah,
it sticks out.
it wasn't okay as that. Apparently, it was a failed TV show in Japan that
Yeah.
ended early, and I can kind of see why. That I think it wasn't set on Earth, so setting it on Earth and tying Dana in with the Robotech masters with their lineage, actually, in some ways, may have given it a little bit more life and relevance in some ways.
Right, right.
But like you said, why does Dana have blonde hair when her parents have green hair or blue hair?
Didn't make any
And they
sense.
show the baby, and the baby has
Yeah, yeah,
green hair.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and then yeah, like they rebuilt society, but in this weird kind of like 19th century French looking
Yeah.
European way. I
Doesn't
mean,
make any sense. Hey, there's my
yeah,
dog. That's
yeah.
Murray.
So it almost would have been better if they would have skipped from there right to Mospeada, which in the Robotech incarnation was the new
New
generation.
generation, yeah. Next generation. Next generation? New generation. I don't know. I can't
New
remember.
generation, next gen, I can't get these things right.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, man, I mean that show, Macross or Robotech in particular, the Macross one, uh, I can remember talking about it every day with my friends on the schoolyard, and I can
mhm,
remember watching it. Me and my buddies, we loved all the alien stuff. We loved all the Veritech stuff. We loved all, and then my friend's older sister, who we were all absolutely in love with, she'd sit down and watch with us because she was
wow.
super interested in the like romance stuff that was
Yeah,
going on between Rick and Minmay and Lisa and the sort of soap opera aspect
right.
of it. And I remember just like thinking like this is the greatest situation we could
Uh-huh.
ever have.
Yeah.
She's actually paying attention to something that we're paying attention to, and it's
Uh-huh.
awesome at the same time. It was like
Yeah.
the coming together of all worlds.
Right.
Um,
That's part of the appeal is that it had that crossover. It
and
had the
permadeath and like all these things that like mattered.
yeah.
It just seemed like it was the show that mattered. It wasn't a new jam every episode.
Yeah, it was episodic, unfolding, characters changed, evolved, like a good story. Some
Yeah.
lived, they loved, they died.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure there was plenty before that. But as far as like direct influence on me as a kid, that was like the thing that really locked in. That was the one that I was like, oh. And then I didn't realize it sort of informed every decision that I made after that. I wanted to tell longer form narratives, and I liked when characters were sort of morally ambiguous and a little like I can't quite
Mhm.
figure them out, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite character was Roy. I mean, he had the
Dude.
best Veritech fighter,
Right.
Golden Bones,
Yeah.
and then spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it. We're gonna get into spoilers. Yeah, here's the one I latched onto. Like in Star Wars, I was always a little bit more of a Han Solo guy than I was a Luke
The
Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker guy, yeah.
So I just thought he was the coolest. And then he died. Again, it was unbelievable.
And he died at his girlfriend's house because he didn't want to like admit that he had been shot. Like it was almost like it was like hat on a hat levels of badassery.
It was.
I don't think you realize how terrified I get every time you fly off on a combat mission. It's almost as if you pilots think that it's all some kind of wonderful game that you're playing when you go up in those Veritechs.
It has never been a game, Claudia. Maybe someday you'll understand that.
Anyway, I've said what I had on my mind, and I promise that I'll keep my mouth shut about it in the future. Dinner's ready. What? Well, don't tell me I put you to sleep. Is anything wrong? Roy?
You don't want to look at it too carefully because it's like if you're like shot up in a fighter, do you not want to try to get medical attention?
Yeah, I don't. Hey, man, don't think about it too much. As a kid, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's the toughest dude in the world.
It was.
And there was like either I'm remembering it from the animation or the comic, but I do remember there were like two techs that like went to the cockpit and were like, whoa, there's all this blood here.
Oh, wow.
And that might have been in the comics only, but I remember going like, oh my gosh.
I just reread or I just rewatched Macross and I don't remember that. So maybe that was from the
It
comic.
might have been from the comics. Yeah.
You're
The
reading,
Comico comics.
you're reading those. You know, we just jumped right into Robotech, but
Yeah.
I did want to talk a little bit about kind of the days back at Sony where we first met.
Yeah.
It does kind of segue because there are a couple guys there that were associated with Robotech and Macross.
Yeah.
One is our buddy Byron. He drew at least one of those Comico issues.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about, I thought you were going to mention Sean Song.
No, I am.
Yeah.
But it was funny that Byron also.
That's awesome. I
Yeah,
probably read it and geeked out over his art.
And yeah, Sean Sung. And then this other guy, Moon.
Moon, I never met. I was never able to meet Moon, but I heard the legends.
Yeah. The question is, and I have lots of respect for their talent. I mean, when they mentioned they had worked on that, I mean, they probably said they worked on Macross. And I was just like, oh, Robotech.
Right. And I think Sean had mentioned that he worked on Gotcha-Man as well. And I was just like, oh my God, it's like my entire childhood in one
that's
fell
amazing.
swoop.
Yeah, that guy was really talented. But then I have to wonder, as talented as they are, they were Korean. They were probably working for the Korean studio.
Probably, yeah. I'm assuming, yeah.
And a lot of that's the one thing I will say, rewatching Macross, I've probably watched it through about 3 times since the beginning, but the last time I watched it through at this point, it's been over 10 years. And that would be the one thing I would say is some of those episodes are a little rough on the animation.
Yeah, I mean, that was that era where it sort of like set that pace for like sort of tiered up episodes and then episodes that were sort of down here and kind of just got you through. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the worst moment was the knife fight when Miria goes after Mac.
Max.
Geez, it's getting late. I hope she's all right. I can't believe I asked her to meet me here in the park. A girl at night. She could get mugged or something.
Maximilian, prepare for your doom!
Maria, there you are. It's nice to see you could make it. Huh? Ah!
By the way, I mean, what better way to like meet the love of your life?
Yeah, but that's the way that everything about that scene. I mean, the eyeballs were like pointed different directions.
They were.
It was rough.
They were,
but it was good, and you didn't
that
care.
arcade moment where they're playing that game, I thought was the coolest thing in the world. Where was like a hologram display of like Veritech fighters battling each other.
Right.
I thought in my brain, it
Yeah.
still is the coolest scene ever created.
I don't know why they didn't, it's never been recreated somehow. Like in
The game itself. I thought you meant the show. Yeah, the game. Now would be the time.
there was Armored Core, right?
I love the hell out of that. We played that at Sony. Do you remember we had a big Armored Core tournament at Sony?
Yes, I do remember that. Except I had no ability to play that game.
You were terrible. It came down to me
Oh.
and Jay Oliva in the finals because we
Oh,
both played the
wow.
game pretty regularly.
That's awesome.
And I think we had both exhausted all our weapons and we were just down to our like plasma blades. And we were just trying to like fly around and swipe each other.
How cool. Yeah, there were a lot of us that were Robotech fans from back in the day. All those beautiful designs were created by Soji Kawamori,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
I think he was involved with that game as well.
With Armored Core. That's right.
Yeah,
He was.
right. So yeah, a lot of the appeal of that first generation Macross / Robotech was the story, the characters, but also just his concepts.
His sensibilities. It was like weirdly grounded in something that's kind of tangible. Even through Armored Core, you're like, they're big mecha, but they feel like militarized and they feel kind of there was that other end of like kind of more spectacular sci-fi like fantasy mecha design, but his at least during that time felt very grounded and very like, oh, this seems kind of halfway plausible. That's a tomcat that's transforming into a robot there.
Yeah, that was what somebody had a bootleg version of Macross Zero.
Yeah,
I've only seen scenes from, and that was really cool. You'd see some of the transformations happen from within the cockpit.
so cool, right?
And it looked really worked out. Like,
yeah. Well, I think those things have to be
real.
half engineered, man.
Mhm.
I remember, geez, this was a while ago when Cartoon Network did that version of Transformers that Derek Wyatt, rest his soul, was the designer on.
Mhm.
And I got to meet one of the Hasbro engineers, super nice guy, but he has to like figure out how to make the shapes, which Derek is like sort of loosely saying like this shape here can kind of equate to that shape there. He had to sort that all out, man.
Yeah, and that was a 2D show, so they didn't have to really figure anything out.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, I think they think in that engineering kind of way.
Mhm. I remember back when Robotech first aired, like I was watching, we're roughly the same generation.
Yeah.
I'm a few years older, so
A few years older, but I was like, I had my buddy that lived upstairs that was like 4.5 years older than me that I'd always hang out with.
oh, okay.
So I always got like, people are like, how did you like know about like Kiss and stuff like that? I was like, because I had that 4-year-old. It was just that 4 years. It was like a generational jump.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That explains your knowledge of 70s.
Yeah. Although Bullet Man the Human Bullet, I didn't understand. That was one that you brought up early on that I was like, I have no idea what you're talking
Yeah. I sang that for you and I've never lived it down.
It's a hell of an ad.
I'll cut it in.
Imagine the Great Silver Cup, and their mission is to break through the fortress and recapture the cup. You can send Bullet Man the Human Bullet. Mission accomplished.
There you go.
Audience, watch it. Yeah, so I was I mean, I'm a little bit older, so well, a lot of kids my age at that point were thinking more about girls and sports or whatever. I was still watching G.I. Joe, Transformers.
Yeah, man.
I was watching all that stuff. But I gotta say, when Robotech came along, it was like I was still watching G.I. Joe, but Transformers, I was like, okay, maybe, but I'm not gonna go out of my way because I have seen the light.
Right.
I couldn't go back.
Yeah.
That's
right, man.
Bar had been reached, and
no, it was yeah, like again, it just fired on so many cylinders, and then when that movie came out, that Super Dimensional Fortress Macross, the
Do you remember
Love? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I was like,
See
it
that
felt
at
like
the time?
I didn't see it at the time, and
Yeah.
that was years later when I was like a teenager.
Yeah, I saw it like bootlegged on VHS
Yeah.
somehow. Yeah.
We were that was, I remember being so starved for like Robotech content that anything that even sort of like skipped a rock off of it, I was super into. There was a Capcom game called Sidearms. That you were like two sort of Veritech fighters that could combine into like a bigger robot.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember playing that at Raging Waters.
Oh.
And we were all soaking wet because we'd just been on the water slides all day. And at that time, they had little metal cigarette holders on the sides of the arcade machines. And if
Mhm.
you touched it, it wasn't grounded. So you'd get shocked every time you went to
Oh,
like,
wow.
but I just powered through all the electrocution because I was like, oh, it's like Macross, it's like Robotech. But yeah, when that VHS came out, man, do you remember Love? I remember just going like, it can't get any better, man. This is the greatest thing that will ever be made.
Because the animation, the dub, do you see it dubbed? Because the dub was terrible.
No, it was so bootleg that we were just watching the Japanese
Oh,
without
that's so much better.
without anything. It was just straight
Yeah.
Japanese.
I'm pretty sure the first one I saw was dubbed, and it was not dubbed well. But the animation, yeah, and some of the like when the SDF one is changing for the first
Oh,
time, and
dude.
all the tables are sliding down.
Yeah. And I remember,
Animated.
it was kind of like a weird Elseworlds experience because I was like, oh man, they're telling the same story again, more condensed with way better animation
Right.
and like sort of losing some things and embellishing other things.
Mm.
But at that time, it had been a few years since I'd watched Robotech. So Robotech almost seemed like a fever dream to me. I had like the comics, but they weren't airing the shows anymore.
Right.
I had these toys because Matchbox made a bunch of toys.
Mhm.
But then this sort of like, as a teen, it sort of like re-upped my passion for it.
That's cool. There's something to be said for that bygone era where everything wasn't at your disposal 24/7. Whatever you
Yeah.
watch, whenever you want to watch it, you can find it somewhere, if not through regular channels and on a pirated site or
Right.
it was like you watched it and then you had the memory of it and the feeling that it
The feeling of it. That's right.
and it was just like, yeah, like this elusive thing that
It became sort of like a weird dream state that you were in where I was like, I totally remember it this way. And then you would talk about it with friends. That was the best you had, was like chatting about it with friends.
Right. I gotta say, the one thing about the Do You Remember Love that I didn't care for was the portrayal of Roy. Because he
Was he like way more jerky or something?
was
I know I'm
a jerk. He was like
Yeah.
abusive to Claudia, and he was just a drunk bastard.
Yeah.
And he went out as a drunk bastard.
Yeah. But I
Like,
mean,
in the
I
series,
do remember the animation being exquisite for his
it
death.
was very good. And then of course my favorite, I guess you can't call it Robotech. I've always wondered, like, is there a way they could fit it into the Robotech timeline somehow? Like, does it really not work? But it's that Macross Plus
Oh man.
to this day. You go back and watch that, and it's like a lot of, I mean, honestly, the Robotech, it's of its time,
Sure.
You had to really appreciate it, you had to be there and
Sure.
in that era, in that landscape,
Yeah.
to have that impact. I mean, I
Yeah.
tried with my kids. I don't know if you tried with your
No. Luke, he's still a little too young. He'd fall asleep. They're so slow.
I know. I tried and it's just, yeah, it just doesn't, it's not going to resonate and connect. It's of its time. But I'll tell you that Macross Plus, I think I rewatched some of that the past week or so when I was gearing up for this interview, and it's still gorgeous. It's
It's
awesome.
gorgeous, and it's a way smaller story. It's like a self-contained little sort of
Yeah.
like, sort of love triangle thing that's happening there.
Kind of a Top Gun type of
Kind of a Top Gun thing. Do you remember that film Stealth that came out?
Yeah, there was
It kind of
Mhm.
aped the same thing.
It
It was like
did.
these AI controlled, yeah.
Right.
Um, yeah, and dude, it's immaculate. Like the way they present the POV from the cockpit with all the stuff going on outside is just like next level, man.
Yeah, I watched and rewatched the dogfight between the two planes at the ends. At the end, like just I don't know how many times.
I know, man.
Yeah.
I know my brain still can't, like, conceiving of those scenes. I can't imagine like storyboarding that without having like a robust set of like what we have now, which is like Storyboard Pro, which is like a little mini animatic you could build.
Right.
They would just board it out and just sort of be able, as animators, be able to see what was going to be happening in their heads.
Right.
Stop!
That's the
Incredible, man.
wonder of like anime at its best. When you watch it, it's like, how did they map that all out?
I know, man. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. By the way, I have a friend group on Facebook, and they posted a video for a new game called Grendel. Is that
No. Oh, yeah. So no, Grendel is a character that's in a new game called Wayfinder.
okay? Speaking of watching something that was like, how did they map that out? That was you, buddy.
Yeah, bud.
多くの名前がある全部悪名だがなまあいいさ本当だからだあんた盗賊殺し屋いいよ俺はどれかって金を払うやつによる
So we got together, we formed like a little studio, called ourselves 5 Count Productions. I'm sure you're well aware, like I had friggin' posters of this stuff all over Sony when I was working there in the beginning, but Joe Madureira, who's a comic book artist, he started a video game company called Airship Syndicate. And they had a series of games called Darksiders, which were really cool games. And then he made this game, Wayfinder. We had become buddies online, both Portuguese fellas, it turns out. So that's very cool. And again, I was just like geeked to be like chatting with a guy that I really looked up to artistically. And he and his daughters had watched Korra together, and they were like fans of Korra, so we sort of had like a mutual admiration for each other's work. And then he was like, hey, we're doing some like a crazy teaser for a new character we're going to intro into this game, would you have any availability to do it? And I was just winding down off the Spider-Verse, and it just seemed like the breath of fresh air that I needed after being in like 4.5 years of like Spider-Verse craziness. It was like, let's just cut loose, have fun, and have an opportunity to work with a bunch of animators that I'd been following on social media for a bajillion years.
Nice.
I just made a bunch of calls, man.
It was great. It was beautiful. So what would you say, like, with the fact that Macross is coming to the States apparently in a big new way, we're going to get access to way more TV series that we've never seen before.
Yeah. I'm stoked, man.
Would you still consider yourself a Robotech guy, or are you a
I think Robotech was the thing that I like had in my vision. It was the thing that was on TV. It's what they called it. But I think of the entirety of Robotech, it was really Macross that I like locked into. But there are little things like I'm really nostalgic for the Robotech song that was in the States because it's what I grew up with. And it's a totally different song. It's very operatic and totally different in Macross. I'm really nostalgic for the like narrator's voice catching everybody up on like what happened before.
Which is totally unnecessary, but yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And like how about the music by
Totally.
Nucci?
Yeah, man.
And you know, some of the voice acting, you know, Tony Oliver, who did Rick,
Yeah.
Cam Clark, he did Max and Yellow Dancer.
I'm like all those things are like burned in my, but it's really Macross, I think that locked everything in. So it's which, by the way, I just found out, I don't even know if this is true. It might be like internet rumor. The reason it's called Macross is because they originally wanted to call the SDF-1 the Macbeth. And then they wanted the show to be like across the universe, like you were saying in the beginning of this intro here.
It all comes full circle.
The full circle. And so they just mixed Macbeth and Across, and Macross became the city.
Well, that's interesting.
There you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you found out, like at some point, I had no idea, none of us did, that they were 3 separate series. Like some things didn't quite gel. You didn't really know why. You just you kind of accepted it.
And just accepted it.
And then I think the word got out when later afterwards when they were trying to revive it and create an original, like a new original Robotech series, the word got out. And I remember my friend told me, and he had this like look of betrayal in his face, and he was like, you know, that's like that series was just like put together by some American that was never meant to be that way at all. And I was like, no,
it can't be.
But it all adds up if you really look at it. This fit.
I never harbored any ill will or anything like that. I never took a stance. I'm sort of more in the camp, especially since I've been like associated with shows that are like on the periphery of anime, but are not anime.
Yeah.
I'm happy to sort of like let anime exist and be the thing that influences millions of people, and then create different animation that is for sure influenced by anime, but stands and sort of does its own thing.
Right.
So I never really felt like it was more it was like a fun thing to like geek out over with friends. It wasn't like we didn't take a stance as like, oh, they destroyed this once beautiful thing. We just didn't know enough of what was actually going on.
I felt pressure to do that.
Yeah.
Friends, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't like let go of just that warm, glowy feeling I had for Robotech specifically.
Yeah.
Which beyond, and to this day, I actually have not watched Macross.
Right, straight up Macross.
No, I always go back. I think about it, and then I'm like, I just want to rewatch Robotech.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think that's fair, man. It's the thing that provides the warm and fuzzies for us. That narrator's voice, man, is like, I kind of wish I just had that walking into a room, man.
Yeah, it's like the thing you're really not supposed to do.
Right. Yeah, you really aren't supposed to
explain something with narration, and yet, yeah, it's so nostalgic.
But I think it's also like that it was happening for kids. These sort of like kind of heady ideas were happening for kids, and for a kid show, there was a lot to track. You know, you had to remember this long-standing relationship might have been sort of like dormant for like 3 episodes while they handled this other thing. Now they're coming back into it. It's like you kind of have to get caught back up.
Well, also, I'm just running home from school to try and see this thing, and sometimes I missed episodes.
Right.
So
exactly.
If you look at it again, it's sort of its time. Then it sort of makes the only thing that I wasn't so crazy about even at the time was maybe the first couple times it was okay. Was Min-Mei singing
"We Can Win"?
We can win. No. Well, they played that one towards the end. The other one they played more often was that other one.
That spotlight Dun, dun,
Yeah.
this is my. I loved it. I mean, I don't know, man. I
Oh,
was
are you
all
just
in.
hook lanes? Yeah. I was.
I mean, I think it also helped that I was like maybe a couple years younger. I was
Yeah,
just
I'm
like
sure it did. I
down for
mean,
the cause.
you know, I was a teenager, so
Yeah.
me and my friends were like the Zentrani when they were playing. We're like, no,
No.
up.
But I mean, even how crazy was that, dude? You know, the fact that like the Zentradi are sort of curious about human culture and
Proto-culture.
protoculture. They're you know, and then three of them get sort of shrunken down to infiltrate, but they end up falling in love with sort of the lifestyle. I don't know. It all felt
No,
like so
that was
real.
great. Yeah, it was very cool. I mean, but protoculture, like, what the hell is protoculture?
Protoculture.
Protoculture is a flower, I guess. But it also extends life, and it's also referred to as earth culture. Gets very confusing.
Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was
I
good.
do remember me and my friends thinking it was a really big deal that the Zentratis were like, show us what a kiss is. And like Lisa and Rick had to kiss. And I remember looking at my friend's sister and she was like, oh my God. And she couldn't believe it was happening. Like, that's just good stuff, man. That was just like, I don't know, happy memories, but also like introduction to like relationship building from completely opposite sides of the tracks. This is
Well, I
great,
mean, it's
man.
great for a kid when you're a kid too, because you don't have a lot of experience.
No.
To the tracking systems now.
Commence broadcast.
No, Lisa, I'm telling you, I'm not gonna consent to the kiss. Orders or no orders. I'm sorry, but my mind is made up.
Stage lights flashing, the feeling smashing.
I've never heard anything so horrible. No more, please turn it off.
It's unbelievable, Lisa.
Well, Reno, perhaps this will please you. Huh? What? A male and female touching lips? Can't be. It's impossible. I can't watch anymore. Turn off the monitor.
I quite frankly was a late bloomer. So even though I was like a teenager, I still didn't have that much experience.
Right.
Oh, okay. So
Right.
like,
That's how it works. You just got to meet some aliens. They
right.
stick you in a glass dome.
You must be joking. I won't do it.
But Commander!
I mean it, Ben. I'm serious. I won't kiss him. He made up that absolutely ridiculous scheme just because he wants to kiss me. I know I may be naive, but I'm not stupid.
Nope. All right. So real quick then. We'll
Yeah.
wrap up. Favorite best moments. What's your favorite moments in I'm assuming they're from Macross, but they could be from any.
I mean, for sure it's Macross. I remember when Max really showed himself to be like an awesome pilot and he was tearing through like he was in like the halls of the Zentradi ship, just like tearing it up. I thought that was really cool.
Way to lose these guys. We'll take the elevator to another level. Bye-bye. Out of the way, man. I'm losing power. It's overheating. Try and get the door closed. I'll try. So much for them. In a couple of minutes, the plane will blow. What do we do now, Commander?
You'll just have to try and blast us out of here.
Okay, let's go. Roger. I've got the laser rifle. This way, let's move it. Follow me. Everybody run, come on.
What's that?
Awesome.
The hologram arcade game was the coolest thing in the world to me at the time. Rick saving Min-Mei was a big one too.
Oh, in the first episode.
Yeah, that was like, I remember just going like, dude, I don't know what's happening, but this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Right. That first episode, that scene, that was like, wow, I've never seen anything like this in afternoon
No.
television.
Yeah.
Where the camera was tracking around the barricade,
Crazy, dude.
falling, and the canopy opens and he has to reach out and grab her.
I remember it was like in that time where as a kid, I couldn't explain why things were better. I had no vocabulary for things like, oh, the camera was doing this, or like the background was blah, 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 blah. And I just remember telling my friends, like, it looked real. It was like real life. It was like, it just felt real to me.
Yeah. That was awesome. Also the scene where the SDF one like smashes
Oh, dude.
into the Centrani ship and
And then
then shoots the cannon. Yeah.
Ah.
I don't believe it. It's amazing.
The greatest,
That
man.
was fantastic. Of course, Roy's death scene. That's one of my all-time favorite scenes ever.
The bowl of salad, man. She was mixing that salad, dude. They were gonna have that wonderful salad.
I
She
know.
dropped the bowl of salad.
He was playing the guitar and the hand just dropped.
Oh,
Couple
like a
blood.
real tough guy, man.
Yeah.
That's a full tough guy death right there.
Yep, it was great. And then what would you say the most disturbing scene was for you as a child? There was a few.
Disturbing. Oh man. I do remember being really weirded out that the city got as destroyed as it did when the SDF transformed. I remember going like,
Oh,
oh my
yeah.
gosh, there's definitely people dying right now.
Right.
Like people are getting squished between things,
Yeah.
cars are getting smashed up. And
Talking
when it
about
all
that-
went 0G and stuff, that was crazy.
Yeah, you're talking about that sort of that gray area where like Global had to make that decision.
Yeah. That I remember that feeling like really, really weird. I don't know. I can remember like it's not really like a icky situation, but I do remember all the Zentradi guys' voices really freaking me out.
Mm-hmm.
Like all that whole vibe whenever they spoke to each other, it was like they had that like whatever that modulator was on their voice. It put me in a weird spot, man.
Yeah. Well, I would say the most disturbing was Ben's death.
Let's get out of here before we're done. Ben, use your afterburner now. Do you copy? It's too late, Rick. I can't. Ah! No, Ben!
Wow, yeah.
Because when they're in
Old
that
Ben Dixon.
cockpit and his whole face seems to like
Yeah.
go in a weird direction as it gets backlit and sort of
You know what that reminded me of, strangely enough? Did you ever watch Memphis Belle?
and that's a World War II movie about,
Yeah, it's like about the big bombers.
I think
Harry Connick
I
Jr. was in
did.
it.
Yeah, I think I did.
There was a scene where they were all like flying in and flak was going off and they got into the middle of some craziness. And one of the bombers that they were on the radio with gets hit and is like falling and like careening to its death essentially. But they kept the radio on and you can just hear the guys screaming to their death.
Ooh.
And I remember like, eesh, that's
They'd be,
so
like,
heavy.
Burning to death, a lot of them burnt to death.
Yeah. Yeah, it puts me in that. Yeah, that was one, strangely enough, probably more than Roy dying in the series. When Ben died, me and my friends, like we went back to school like shell shocked, like, yo,
Yeah,
he died. Like he was the nice guy.
the violence of it too.
Yeah.
But also in that same, when Earth's getting bombarded, just the soldier kneeling with the little girl. It gets like vaporized.
Rough, man.
It gets a little. I know that was in the original, had to have been in the original airing because that made such an impression. Because of course, we rewatched them
Sure.
DVD, and they've included additional scenes like
Yeah.
in May showering,
Yeah.
maybe a
We
few
didn't get
more
that.
scenes of violence. Like I'm pretty sure that full scene was in there of Ben's just sort of like
I remember it as the screen going like just going like going to fuzz or
maybe
whatever.
that was on the DVD part, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that little girl and that soldier was in there.
Well, that was, I mean, and that was a lot of the hallways, even in the Zentradi ships. Like it would just be like dudes in hallways, and then
True.
fire would come and just they're gone.
Yeah, like Max is just annihilating.
And this was during the time where like we were watching G.I. Joe at the same time, and anytime a ship was shot down, you'd see a little parachute like
Yeah.
safe,
And we all
safe
complained about it.
I
And
know.
we would watch it carefully, be like, hey, I don't think anyone jumped out of that one. Yeah, that one's definitely dead. Because you actually wanted some death. Otherwise, there's like no stakes.
There's no, yeah. It is strange. I think about it now, how militarized our childhoods were compared to like my kids.
Yeah.
He doesn't, I mean, he's like woken up and watched me play like Ghost Recon from like behind the fireplace. I'm like, I feel like I'm being watched, and I see him like watching, but it's not something that interests him really. I guess his friends talk about their older brothers playing Fortnite. That's as close as it gets.
Well, maybe that's not such a bad thing.
It's not. But I do. Everything was military for
Oh
us.
yeah, Rambo. I loved me some Rambo, G.I. Joe. I was into
Yeah.
Commando. I was into all that stuff.
Yeah, man.
I
All
still
that stuff.
am. So
They made, when you think about it, an animated and toy line off of Rambo and RoboCop. Like
Yes.
RoboCop was almost like a rated X film.
They had to scale back some of the violence to make a hard R, and they made toys and they turned it into a kid cartoon.
Into a kid's cartoon.
And same with Rambo.
Rambo.
Yeah, man.
They made
I know.
About a guy with PTSD.
PTSD. Yeah, who was like rejected by his own country. It's like, let's turn it into a cartoon.
Different time to be sure. But all right, man. Well,
Sweet, bro.
yeah, I think that about covers it. Appreciate
All right.
you sitting down with me.
This was a good hang, dude. Always a good hang. This is the conversations we'd be having whether
Yeah.
we were on Zoom or not.
I know. So yeah, why not?
By the way,
round
is
it up?
that piece of furniture, is that a thing from years back that
It
might
is.
have come from my house?
Oh my God. I don't know.
Do you remember Sharon and I gave you like,
Yeah,
like
I
a
held
bunch
on
of furniture?
onto that furniture for the longest time. There's that big comfy chair you guys gave me, and then Nancy finally made me get rid of it like a few years. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it. And it's like old. It's like 10 years old.
That's a crate and barrel piece right there. No,
Did you-
I
did
think
you
that
get
was
me
it,
this?
man. Yeah, I think we had that thing.
I thought this was Nancy, but maybe it was you.
We had something exactly like it.
No, it could
The
be.
little
It could
metal
be you.
Jimmy
I'm like,
Jams.
you gave me furniture and I held on to it forever.
Well, all right. That's great.
But
Awesome, man.
it's possible, but I mean, Nancy's
We went through a whole phase of like sort of like that more like rustic, older. Some of it looks like it's from like Thailand or something like that. Like it was crafted in another place.
interesting. Yeah, I don't ever want to move again because I'm up on the second floor and you wouldn't believe how hard that was to get that up to the second floor. But I mean, it's not full of clothes or anything. It's full of all the stuff that Nancy won't let me display.
There you go. Nice.
Like toys and DVDs in
All the
there,
good stuff.
and art books. So she's like, it's fine as long as you keep it closed.
Keep it close. Keep it out of the line of sight. I know everything that I got is like in my little zone here.
Right, but I'm in the bedroom /
Got it.
it's like I double up with
The shared space.
All right, man. Well, great
Awesome,
talking.
dude. This is a great hang.
All right, everybody. Till next time. Be seeing ya.